The grease under my fingernails was still warm when I walked through the front door at midnight, expecting to find Heather sprawled on the couch with her wine and reality TV. Instead, I found her stuffing clothes into our goods suitcase, the one we hadn't used since our honeymoon 7 years ago. "Going somewhere?" I asked, dropping my toolbox by the door with a deliberate thud. She jumped like I'd caught her robbing a bank. "Oh, Danny, you scared me." Her laugh sounded like broken glass. "It's my Aunt Betty in Boise. She had a stroke. I need to fly out first thing tomorrow. I've been married to Heather long enough to know when she's lying. She gets this little twitch in her left eye, like a broken turn signal. Right now, that eye was blinking like a Christmas light." "Aunt Betty, huh?" I leaned against the doorframe, wiping my hands on my coveralls. "The same Aunt Betty who died 3 years ago?" The suitcase zipper caught. She yanked it so hard I thought she'd rip the thing apart. "That was Aunt Barbara. This is Aunt Betty, my mom's sister. Your mom was an only child," I thought, but didn't say it. Not yet. Sometimes the best thing you can do is let someone dig their own grave, while you watch. I grabbed a beer from the fridge and sat at our kitchen table. The one I'd built myself from reclaimed barnwood because Heather said it would look rustic chic for her Instagram posts. Through the window, I could see Mrs. Jansen pretending to water her plants while obviously watching our house. That woman had gossip radar better than air traffic control. Heather's phone buzzed. She grabbed it fast, but not fast enough. I caught a glimpse of the name. Derek Morrison. The mortgage broker who'd been helping Heather with some big commercial listings. The same Derek who drove a BMW that cost more than I made in 6 months, and who always seemed to show up at our neighborhood barbecues wearing polo shirts that probably cost more than my truck payment. "I should get some sleep," Heather said, clutching her phone like a lifeline. "Early flight." "What time's your flight?" 6 a.m. I nodded and took a long pull from my beer. "Need a ride to the airport?" "No, I'm taking an Uber. Don't want to wake you up that early." Of course she didn't. After she went upstairs, I did what any reasonable husband would do. I opened her laptop. The password was still our daughter Jess's birthday, and checked her email. No flight confirmation to Boise. But there was one to Las Vegas, departing at 6:15 a.m., returning Sunday night. Vegas. Sin City. What happens there stays there, right? I scrolled through her recent emails and found the hotel confirmation. The Bellagio. 2 guests. 2 beds, but let's be honest, they probably weren't planning to use both. My phone buzzed with a text from my best friend Nate. "You still up? Need to talk." I called him. Nate runs the boxing gym downtown and has insomnia worse than a new parent. "What's up, man?" "Saw something today I thought you should know about," Nate said. His voice had that careful tone people use when they're about to ruin your life. "Heather and that mortgage guy, Derek, they were at Giuseppe's today, having lunch. Real cozy-like. Giuseppe's, the Italian place with the dim lighting and tables for 2. Not exactly where you'd discuss interest rates and closing costs. How cozy. Hand-holding, whispering, the whole 9 yards. Look, Danny, I wasn't going to say anything, but with you being my friend and all, thanks for telling me. What are you going to do?" I looked up at the ceiling where I could hear Heather moving around our bedroom, probably packing her sluttiest outfits for her weekend getaway. "I'm going to let her go to Vegas." "That's it?" "Oh, hell no. That's just the beginning. After I hung up, I sat in my kitchen for a long time, drinking beer and thinking. Heather thought she was married to a dumb grease monkey who wouldn't notice if she tap-danced naked on the roof with the mailman. She was about to learn that rebuilding engines teaches you a lot about taking things apart and putting them back together however you want. I woke up at 5:30 a.m. to the sound of Heather's Uber pulling away. Through the bedroom window, I watched her climb into the back seat with her suitcase and her guilty conscience. She was wearing the red dress I'd bought her for our anniversary last year. The one she said was too fancy to wear anywhere in our small town. Apparently Vegas didn't count as anywhere. By 7 a.m. I was at my shop, Brennan's Auto Repair, with a pot of coffee and a plan. First things first, I called the airline and canceled Heather's return flight. Amazing how easy it is when you have someone's confirmation number and personal details. The cancellation fee was $200, but I considered it an investment. Next, I posted her car on Craigslist, her precious Honda Accord, the one she kept so clean you could perform surgery on the dashboard. Urgent sale, I wrote. Owner leaving town permanently. Must sell today. I priced it $3,000 below book value and included my phone number. My phone started ringing before I'd finished my first cup of coffee. Mr. Brennan? About the Honda. Is it still available? Sure is, but I should mention my wife doesn't know I'm selling it yet. She's out of town on business, the caller hesitated. Is that legal? It's in both our names. Marriage is a partnership, right? By noon, I'd sold the car to a college kid who paid cash and promised to pick it up that evening. I deposited the money in our joint account, then immediately transferred it to my personal savings. If Heather wanted to play games, she'd learn I knew the rules better than she thought. Around 2 p.m., Mrs. Jansen knocked on my shop door. She was holding a casserole dish and wearing her concerned neighbor expression. Danny, dear, I hope you don't mind me asking, but is everything all right? I saw Heather leave very early this morning with luggage. Mrs. Jansen was 73 years old and had lived across the street from us for 5 years. She knew more about our marriage than our marriage counselor. Not that we'd ever had one. Maybe we should have. Family emergency, I said, wiping my hands on a shop rag. Her aunt in Vegas had a stroke. I watched Mrs. Jansen's face carefully. She was sharp as a tack and caught the discrepancy immediately. Vegas? I thought her family was from Idaho.
Different, Aunt. You know how complicated families can be.
She nodded, but I could see the wheels turning. Mrs. Jansen had been married for 52 years before her husband died. She knew what cheating looked like, and she knew I knew. Well, if you need anything while she's gone, you just holler. Actually, Mrs. Jansen, there is one thing. If anyone comes by the house looking for Heather's car, could you tell them it's been sold? She asked me to handle it while she was away. The old woman's eyes twinkled. Of course, dear. That evening, I was in my garage when Derek's BMW pulled into my driveway. He got out, wearing khakis and a golf shirt, looking like he'd stepped off a country club brochure. His hair was perfectly styled, and his teeth were the kind of white that only came from expensive dentistry. Hey, Danny, is Heather around? I came out of the garage wiping my hands, taking my time. She's out of town. Family emergency. Oh, he looked genuinely surprised. She didn't mention anything about that. Well, you know how it is. These things come up suddenly. Derek shifted his weight from one foot to the other. He was nervous, which was interesting. Do you know when she'll be back? Hard to say. Depends on how her aunt recovers. Her aunt? Yeah, Aunt Betty in Vegas. Had a stroke. I watched his face carefully. He knew about Vegas all right. He just didn't know that I knew. Vegas, he repeated. Terrible thing. But hey, at least she's not there alone, right? She mentioned she was meeting up with some old friend, Derek something. You know him? The color drained from his face like someone had pulled a plug. No. I don't think so. Funny. She talks about this Derek guy all the time. Says he's really been helping her with her business. Derek backed toward his car. Well, tell her I stopped by. I had some papers for her to sign. I'll do that. Oh, and Derek? He turned back. Drive safe. You never know what kind of karma's waiting around the corner. After he left, I called Nate. Phase 1 complete, I told him. What's Phase 2? Phase 2 is where things get interesting. Sunday night came and went with no Heather. Monday morning, my phone rang at 6 a.m. Danny? It's me. Heather's voice was tight with panic. My flight was canceled. The airline says there was some kind of computer error. That's terrible, honey. When's the next one? That's the problem. Everything's booked solid until Wednesday. And Danny, something happened to my car. It's not in the airport parking garage. I was making coffee, taking my time with the filter and the measurements. That's weird. Maybe you forgot where you parked? I didn't forget. Someone stole it. Did you call the police? Yes, but they said it might have been repossessed or sold. Sold? Why would anyone think your car was for sale? Silence on the other end. Then, Danny, did you do something? Me? Honey, I've been working. Ask anyone. I rebuilt Mrs. Patterson's transmission yesterday, and today I'm starting on the Johnsons' pickup. I can barely keep up with my own business, let alone worry about yours. More silence. Then, I need you to wire me money for a flight. How much? $1,200. I whistled low. That's a lot for a last-minute ticket. What happened to your credit cards? They're maxed out. Of course they were. Vegas wasn't cheap, especially when you were trying to impress your boyfriend. I'll see what I can do, I said. But money's tight right now. Business has been slow. It was a lie. Business was great. But Heather didn't need to know that. Danny, please. I need to come home. I want you home too, sweetheart. Let me make some calls. I hung up and immediately called my lawyer, Jim Patterson, the same guy whose wife's transmission I'd just rebuilt. Small towns are funny that way. Everyone's connected to everyone else. Jim, I need to ask you about something. Hypothetically speaking, if someone's spouse disappeared for a long weekend with another person, what kind of legal protections might be available? What kind of protections are we talking about? The kind that makes sure they can't clean out bank accounts or claim harassment if their spouse takes reasonable steps to protect himself. Jim was quiet for a moment. Danny, is everything okay at home? Let's just say I'm planning for various contingencies. Well, hypothetically speaking, if you felt threatened or concerned about your financial security, you could file for a restraining order, especially if you had evidence of erratic or threatening behavior. What kind of evidence? Phone records, witness statements, documentation of unusual financial activity, that sort of thing. And, hypothetically, how long would that take? If you filed today, you could have a temporary order by tomorrow morning. Thanks, Jim. I owe you one. Danny, whatever's going on, be careful. Don't do anything stupid. Don't worry. I'm not going to do anything stupid. I'm going to do something smart. Tuesday morning, I filed for a temporary restraining order against Heather, citing her erratic behavior, her abandonment of our home, and my concerns about our joint finances. I included screenshots of her Vegas hotel reservation, her flight information, and a statement from Mrs. Jansen about seeing her leave with luggage while claiming a family emergency. By noon, I had my restraining order. By 2 p.m., I'd changed the locks on our house and our joint bank account passwords. My phone rang at 3 p.m. Danny Brennan? This is Mitchell Crenshaw, attorney for Heather Brennan. We need to talk. Mitchell Crenshaw. I knew that name. He was Heather's ex-boyfriend from college, the one who'd become a big-shot lawyer in the state capitol. She'd mentioned him a few times over the years, always with a little too much fondness for my taste. What can I do for you, Mitchell? You can start by explaining why you've locked my client out of her own home and frozen her access to her own money. Your client abandoned her home and family for a weekend in Vegas with her boyfriend. I have a legal restraining order protecting me and our assets. That's ridiculous. Heather was attending to a family emergency. In Vegas? With Derek Morrison? Come on, Mitchell. You're a smart guy. Don't insult both our intelligence. Silence. Then, we'll be in touch. After he hung up, I sat in my office and smiled. Heather thought she was playing chess, but she'd brought checkers to a chess match. And she'd just discovered I knew how to play both games. Wednesday afternoon, Derek Morrison walked into my shop. This time, he wasn't alone. He'd brought 2 friends, big guys who looked like they spent more time in the gym than I spent under car hoods. We need to talk, Derek said. I looked up from the engine I was working on. About what? About you harassing Heather. About you playing games with her car and her flights. I don't know what you're talking about. Derek stepped closer. His friends flanked him like bookends. Cut the shit, Danny. We know what you did. I straightened up, wiping my hands on my coveralls. Derek was maybe 6'2", athletic, probably played tennis at his country club. His friends were bigger, but they had soft faces, rich boys playing tough guy. You know what I know, Derek? I know my wife went to Vegas for the weekend. I know she stayed at the Bellagio. I know she wasn't alone. And I know you weren't in town this weekend either because I asked around. Derek's face flushed red. You can't prove anything. I don't have to prove anything. I just have to protect myself and my family. And that's exactly what I'm doing. This isn't over. You're right. It's not. After they left, I called Nate. I think I'm going to need that boxing lesson you've been offering. What happened? Derek just paid me a visit with some muscle. I don't think they're planning to discuss mortgage rates. Come by the gym tonight. And Danny, yeah? Bring your gloves. Thursday morning, I was at the gym with Nate, working the heavy bag, when my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Check your email. You're welcome. A friend. The email contained a video file with no message. I downloaded it and hit play. Security footage from the Bellagio casino. Timestamp. Saturday night, 11:47 p.m. There was Heather in her red anniversary dress, wrapped around Derek Morrison like plastic wrap on leftovers. They were at a blackjack table, and Derek's hands were places that definitely weren't appropriate for a business relationship. The video was crystal clear, high definition, and absolutely damning. "Holy shit," Nate said, looking over my shoulder. "Where did this come from?" I scrolled through the email headers, but the sender had used an anonymous account. Someone wanted me to have this footage, but they didn't want me to know who they were. My phone rang. "Heather. Danny, we need to talk." "I'm listening. I'm coming home today. Mitchell bought me a ticket." "That's nice of him." "Too bad about the restraining order." "What restraining order?" "The one that says you can't come within 500 feet of our house or our daughter until we have a hearing. Didn't Mitchell tell you?" Silence. Then, "You can't do this." "I already did it. But hey, look on the bright side. You can stay with Derek. I'm sure he's got plenty of room." "Danny, please." "Let me explain." "Explain what?" "How you lied about your aunt? How you went to Vegas with your boyfriend? How you've been cheating on me for God knows how long. It's not what you think." "Really?" "Because I think you're a lying, cheating wife who got caught, and I've got video proof." Another long silence. Then, "What video?" "The kind that shows you and Derek getting real friendly at a blackjack table. The kind that would be very interesting to Derek's wife, don't you think?" "You wouldn't." "Try me." She hung up. An hour later, Mitchell Crenshaw called. "My client is willing to discuss a reasonable settlement." "Your client doesn't have anything to settle with. She abandoned her home, her family, and her responsibilities. She committed adultery. In this state, that affects asset division." "You can't prove adultery." "Want to bet?" I emailed him the casino video. He called back 10 minutes later. "Where did you get this?" "Does it matter? It's real, it's dated, and it shows your client in a compromising position with a man who isn't her husband. This could have been doctored." "Could have been, but it wasn't." And I've got more where that came from. I didn't, but Mitchell didn't know that. "What do you want, Danny?" "I want my wife to admit what she did. I want her to apologize to our daughter. And I want her to sign divorce papers that give me primary custody and an equitable division of assets. That's not going to happen. Then I guess Derek's wife gets to see some interesting home movies." Friday morning, I got another anonymous email. This one contained bank records showing Derek had paid for Heather's Vegas trip, including the hotel, flights, and meals. It also showed a pattern of payments going back 6 months. Dinners, hotels, even jewelry purchases. Someone was feeding me information, and they were doing it systematically. But who? The answer came that afternoon when Kayla Summers walked into my shop. Kayla was Heather's best friend from high school, the one who'd become an Instagram influencer with 50,000 followers and a lifestyle blog about living your best life. She was also the one person Heather trusted with all her secrets. "Danny, I think we should talk." "About what?" "About Heather. And Derek, and some things you should know." We sat in my office, and Kayla pulled out her phone. "I've been sending you those emails," she said. "The video, the bank records, all of it." "Why?" "Because Heather screwed me over, and I want her to pay for it." Kayla explained that 6 months ago, she'd been dating Derek Morrison. They'd been together for almost a year, and she thought they were getting serious. Then Heather started working with Derek on some commercial real estate deals, and suddenly Kayla was getting the cold shoulder. "She stole him from me," Kayla said. Then she had the nerve to ask me to be her alibi for their weekend trips. She thought I was too stupid to figure out what was going on. "So you decided to help me." "I decided to help myself." Heather's always thought she was better than everyone else in this town. It's time someone knocked her down a few pegs. Kayla had been collecting evidence for weeks. Photos, videos, bank records, hotel receipts. She had access to Derek's phone through a tracking app they'd installed when they were dating, and he'd never bothered to remove it. "There's more," she said, scrolling through her phone. "Derek's married, too. His wife doesn't know about any of this." "What's her name?" "Patricia Morrison. She's a pediatrician in the city. Really nice woman. Doesn't deserve this." "Does she know about Heather?" "Not yet. But she's about to." Kayla showed me her phone. She'd already composed an email to Patricia Morrison, complete with photos, videos, and documentation of Derek's affair. All she had to do was hit send. "When?" I asked. Tonight, right after Derek gets home from work. I want him to be there when she finds out. I looked at Kayla with new respect. She was small, blonde, and looked like she couldn't hurt a fly. But she was planning revenge with the precision of a military operation. What do you want from me? I asked. I want you to make sure Heather gets what she deserves. And I want front row seats when it happens. Deal. Saturday morning, our small town's annual Founders Day festival was in full swing. Main Street was blocked off for vendors, and the whole town turned out for the parade, live music, and community awards ceremony. It was the kind of event where everyone saw everyone else, and gossip traveled faster than the speed of light. Perfect. I'd spent Friday night preparing. Kayla had given me everything I needed. Videos, photos, bank statements, hotel records, and even text messages between Heather and Derek planning their various rendezvous. I'd compiled it all into a presentation that would make a prosecutor weep with joy. Heather was staying at the Riverside Motel on the edge of town, the only place she could afford now that her credit cards were maxed out and her bank accounts were frozen. She'd been calling me every few hours, alternating between threats and tearful apologies. I'd ignored them all. At 2 p.m., the community awards ceremony began on the main stage in the town square. Mayor Johnson was presenting awards for business excellence, community service, and volunteer work. Half the town was gathered around the stage, including Heather, who'd shown up wearing sunglasses and a baseball cap like she was trying to go incognito. Derek was there too, standing near the back of the crowd with his wife Patricia. Kayla had followed through on her promise. Patricia Morrison now knew exactly what kind of man she'd married. The tension between them was visible from 50 yards away. I waited until Mayor Johnson finished presenting the volunteer award, then I walked up to the stage. Excuse me, Mayor Johnson. Could I borrow the microphone for a minute? Danny? What's this about? Community service. I've got something the whole town should see. Before he could object, I took the microphone and connected my laptop to the sound system. Folks, I want to talk to you about trust. I began. About marriage, friendship, and what happens when people think they can lie to an entire community. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. I could see Heather pushing toward the front, panic written all over her face. My wife Heather told everyone she was going to Boise last weekend to take care of her sick aunt. But that was a lie. I clicked to the first slide. Heather's flight confirmation to Las Vegas. She actually went to Vegas with her boyfriend Derek Morrison. The crowd gasped. Derek tried to push through the people around him, but he was trapped by the crowd. Now, I know what you're thinking. Maybe it was innocent. Maybe they were just friends. So let me show you what friends do in Vegas. I clicked to the casino video. On the big screen behind me, in full color and high definition, Heather and Derek were wrapped around each other like teenagers at prom. The crowd erupted. People were pointing, whispering. Some were taking pictures with their phones. Mrs. Jansen was shaking her head sadly. The pastor from First Baptist looked like he'd swallowed his tongue. But wait, I continued, there's more. I clicked through the bank records, showing Derek's payments for hotels, dinners, and jewelry. I showed text messages where they planned their affairs and laughed about deceiving their spouses. I showed hotel receipts from 3 different cities over the past 6 months. Heather finally reached the front of the crowd. She was crying, mascara running down her face. Danny, stop! Please. Why should I stop? You didn't stop when you were lying to me. You didn't stop when you were lying to our daughter. You didn't stop when you were lying to this entire community. Derek had managed to push through the crowd and was now standing next to his wife, who was staring at him like he was a stranger. Patricia, Derek said, I can explain. Explain what? Patricia's voice carried clearly in the sudden silence. Explain how you've been cheating on me for 6 months? Explain how you spent our anniversary money on hotels with another woman? She slapped him. Hard. The sound echoed through the square like a gunshot. The crowd cheered. I clicked to the final slide. A photo of Heather and Derek in bed together, taken by Derek himself, and sent to Heather with a message that read, "Can't wait to get rid of our spouses and be together for real." So there you have it, folks. My wife and Derek Morrison. They thought they were smarter than all of us. They thought we were too stupid to figure out what they were doing. They were wrong. I unplugged my laptop and handed the microphone back to Mayor Johnson, who looked like he'd rather be anywhere else on Earth. Danny, Heather sobbed, how could you do this to me? I looked down at her from the stage. She looked small and pathetic, nothing like the confident woman who'd walked out of our house a week ago. I didn't do this to you, Heather. You did this to yourself. I just made sure everyone could see who you really are. Derek was trying to talk to his wife, but Patricia was walking away, her head held high. The crowd was parting for her like the Red Sea, and I could see the respect in their faces. She was the victim here, and everyone knew it. "You've ruined my life!" Derek shouted at me. "No," I said, stepping down from the stage. "You ruined your own life. I just documented it." Derek lunged at me, but I was ready. Years of working on cars had given me strong hands and quick reflexes. I caught his fist, twisted his arm behind his back, and pushed him face first into the side of the stage. "You want to take a swing at me?" I said, loud enough for everyone to hear. "Go ahead. But remember, there are about 500 witnesses here, and half of them have cameras." Derek struggled for a moment, then went limp. I let him go, and he stumbled away, his polo shirt torn and his perfect hair messed up. The crowd was cheering again. Someone started clapping, and soon the whole square was applauding. I felt like I'd just won the World Series. Heather was still crying, but now she was angry too. "You think you've won?" she screamed. "You think this is over? I'll take you for everything you have. I'll get custody of Jess. You'll what?" I interrupted. "You'll hire Mitchell Crenshaw to represent you? Good luck with that." I pulled out my phone and showed her a screenshot of an email I'd sent to the State Bar Association that morning, along with evidence that Mitchell had been feeding Heather information about my legal strategy based on his personal relationship with her. Turns out, lawyers aren't supposed to take cases where they have a personal interest in the outcome. Mitchell's about to have some ethics problems of his own. Heather's face went white. "You bastard." "Maybe, but I'm a bastard who's still married to his first wife, still living in his own house, and still has custody of his daughter. Can you say the same?" She couldn't, and we both knew it. The crowd was starting to disperse, but people kept coming up to shake my hand and pat me on the back. Mrs. Jansen hugged me and whispered, "I'm proud of you, dear." Even Mayor Johnson admitted it was the most excitement the town had seen in years. As the sun set over our small town, I walked home to my house now, where my daughter Jess was waiting with a pizza and a movie. She'd spent the weekend with my parents, blissfully unaware of the drama unfolding in her absence. "How was the festival, Daddy?" "Educational," I said, sitting down next to her on the couch. "Very educational." My phone buzzed with a text from Nate. "Holy shit, man, that was epic. Derek's car is getting repossessed right now. And word is, Patricia's filing for divorce Monday morning. You destroyed them." I looked around my living room, our living room, where Jess and I would build a new life, without lies, without betrayal, without someone who thought I was too stupid to notice when I was being played. Heather had wanted to play games. She'd wanted to see how much she could get away with, how long she could fool the dumb mechanic who loved her. She'd found out.